Hey guys, welcome to my vlog. Today my talk carries on from yesterday's talk. So yesterday I talked to you a bit about fat loss and the fat burning cycle and why it's important to start thinking about your body fat stores and how to go about starting to burn them off. And I mentioned in that video a little bit about carbohydrate and how important carbohydrate is as a fuel for the human body. So carbohydrate in the body gets broken down to sugars like glucose, and it's glucose that fuels almost all of our cells. So glucose is the preferred fuel for our brain and for our nervous system and red blood cells and most of our muscle cells and everything as well. And so I think that's where that t-shirt that I mentioned comes from. I'm sorry for what I said when I was undercarbed. And so when you're not eating enough carbohydrates, it's very likely that you'll either become anxious or have panic attacks or become depressed, or certainly fire up at the smallest little trigger. And so hangry, you know, a lot of people talk about getting hangry these days, and it's usually because they're undercarbed. There's so much fear mongering around carbohydrates. It's really quite ridiculous. It's very, very hard, as I mentioned in the last video, to store carbohydrates as fat, and we actually do need to eat a fairly high carbohydrate diet in order to be healthy long term. There's so many medical doctors talking about this. There's doctors like Caldwell Esselstyn reversing cardiac disease by using high carbohydrate diets. Dr. Michael Greger, who's got the nutritionfacts.org website, Dr. Colin Campbell, they've all done numerous scientific studies proving that carbohydrates are the preferred fuel for our body, and we don't need to worry about eating them so much. They're actually a really healthy food source. But the problem with carbohydrates is that there's a lot of human intervention. So there's really highly refined, highly processed carbohydrates. And usually with those kinds of carbohydrates comes a lot of toxicity as well. And so that can certainly cause a lot of problems with regards to fat gain. And I talked about the mechanisms behind that in my last video. And so when you want to fuel yourself with the foods that are going to cause optimal health, you do want to be eating carbohydrates, but you want to be eating healthy carbohydrates. So unrefined, whole foods carbohydrates with minimal to no human intervention. So that's things like your rices and your grains, if you handle grains okay, and then your starchy vegetables like sweet potatoes and corn. Oats, you know, oats are a great food to be including in your diet as well. All of these foods are healthy, complex carbohydrates, and they're going to be providing different types of fibre that help to cleanse your bowel and get all of the waste products out. So again, we're really toxic creatures. We need to be supporting the waste detoxification pathways of our body, and so by eating enough carbohydrate, you'll automatically be ingesting fibre, and fibre is going to help to pull those toxins out of your system. Fruit is another type of carbohydrate. So fruit is like the perfect food for the human body. If you have trouble digesting fruit, go back and watch some of my earlier videos on fruit digestion and how to start increasing the amount of fruits in your diet, because a lot of people have got really compromised guts these days and they can't automatically jump into eating a whole bowl of fruit for breakfast because they won't necessarily do well with the fructose load and different sorts of fibres and things. So just be aware of that. There's things that you might need to do to prepare your body in order to start increasing the right sorts of carbs in your diet. So that's really all I wanted to mention. I think the problem with people's sort of takes on foods these days is everyone's so focused on getting enough protein, when actually that's a myth. You know, most people in Western countries that are eating adequate calories are getting far too much protein. And we actually need to focus more on getting enough carbs so we're not all hungry, and getting enough fibre too to help support the detox pathways of our system. So, nice little short one today after yesterday's super long video. I hope you got to the end of that one. Carb the fuck up, people! We'll see you tomorrow.